going to start our top lobster productions.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Nephilim Death Squad. I am 90s heartthrob David Lee Corbo, a.k.a. The Raven. That is Top Lobster, the father of disinformation. Hello. Before we get into today's guest, we want to tell you guys where you can support the show, and that would be patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad. Sign up over there. You can engage in the live chat when the episodes go live.
See the latest episode. This was a banger.
In the Graves' disease.
Certified.
It's going to upset... I'm sure there's going to be a few people out there that were like, that episode wasn't nice.
Yeah, they're like, I thought you guys were straight Bible. Like, no.
We like to have fun still.
Matt.
With 3 T's. Anyway, patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad. You can also gain early access to episodes, discount codes off of merchandise from toplobster.com.
Yes, that's right.
And tickets to Bohemian Grove. Look at this.
Wow,
blap,
shirt.
blap,
Blap shirt. I'm not doing this.
I'm not
it's all in the egg.
this.
We have some more. I have some more cool shirts coming. More ideas.
I saw the shirt that well, you showed me one of them. Your design.
Yeah.
Because we have me, we have Matt, and yours is coming soon. And yours is actually really cool, and I do enjoy it. So good job.
We have a great guest today. Returning guest. Wow.
Returning guest Bennett of Broadcasting Seeds. Bennett, before we get into the conversation, let's let everybody know where they can find you and what it is you do.
So I have a small podcast over here called Broadcasting Seeds, where I basically try to plant seeds in people's minds and get them thinking outside the box, thinking, about stuff like you guys cover. And the best place to go find me is probably broadcastingseeds.com. That's kind of the gateway to all this jackassery.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Mason is interrupting your introduction. Mason, get
She's
out of the
very
room.
Adamant. We do our show in a live coffee shop, and
It's amazing.
sometimes it's like dealing with children.
Sometimes
it's like
it
dealing
is.
with children.
Pretty sure she's a child.
Man, when was the last time we had Bennett on? Has it been a year? It's been
almost
about
a year. I think about a year. And the last time I came on, I talked about the Ingersoll Lockwood books.
Ah, that's right.
That's right. Which,
And
I mean, go ahead.
it's just, it's one of those things. It was just such a, and people still get crazy about it on the internet. But it is what it is,
Well, the Ingersoll Lockwood books are one of those things where when you first hear about it, you go, what?
You go, no way.
Because it seems so outlandish. And so you did a great job of presenting that. We had to kind of address it because it comes up constantly in the Donald Trump discussion, which, any conspiracy theorist worth their salt has to speculate, at least lightly, as to whether or not Trump is the Antichrist.
I think that book itself and the idea behind it has convinced, so I just did Christmas baking cookies with my family.
Nice.
And now they're all coming to me and they're like, the Illuminati, right? And they're saying like, yeah, I don't know about the moon landing. And
that's conspiracy light.
Yeah, that's conspiracy light. But I had told them about, that book, and they were all kind of like off kilter about it. Because there's no denying it. I have copies of it. I'm here, just take a look at it. Go ahead and read through it. And they see
it's a hard read.
I don't know. It's a hard read, but they don't know what initially to make of it. And now they don't believe anything, which is great. And now I'm trying to get them to get vaccinated.
Yeah, it's we're here to talk about something a little bit different today, and you piqued our interest before the show started. You mentioned this idea of dark DNA is how you phrased it, and when we prodded a little bit, it started to seem like we were talking about generational trauma, generational iniquity, and that rolls into a whole plethora of things. You and I were talking off air.
It does.
Demonic possession, dissociative identity disorders. That's kind of our wheelhouse. Where do you want to start the conversation on this?
So I just want to give people a little background. That basically for me, this whole journey started in a completely, I say completely normal place, but I wasn't hunting for giants or trying to decode, bloodlines or anything like that. But I think this stuff has a little legs when it comes to that type of stuff. So I was just researching generational trauma. One of my daughters is in college, and she had a paper where she had to talk about some stuff with that. So I was just kind of give her background on our family, but I don't know a lot about the background. I do now, but the idea that, pain our parents or ancestors lived through can physically imprint itself on us, on our DNA. And this science is real. There's some, Holocaust survivor families show inherited PTSD markers. I know that's going to open up a whole can of worms on the air.
Well, no, I do want to say on that topic, it's interesting because if you look at in general, they are like a people who have been traumatized.
Yeah.
And they all have that.
So regardless what it's for or what it's from, there's markers in their DNA. Also, a big set of the population is combat veterans, and their children can carry stress signatures from wars that they never fought in, right? It's crazy. Even famine, like one of the things I got into is the Dutch hunger winter, and that left epigenetic scars on the grandchildren even decades later of some of these folks, right? So that blew the door open on this for me, because if trauma can echo through the blood, what else can, right? Whether faith, fear, your heritage. Science calls it epigenetics, chemical tags that can switch genes on and off without changing the DNA itself, right? And when I realized that science, for the most part, until recently, was realized they were considering 98% of our genome that doesn't code for proteins. They considered it junk DNA. Scientists literally, not shockingly, literally called it junk DNA because they didn't understand it. So what if that 98% isn't junk at all? They found out that a lot of it's not, but what if it's like a lockbox holding the memories, instincts? Where does all this stuff come from? Maybe the forbidden traits of our ancestors. So that's when the Bible started to make a whole lot more sense to me, a little bit, with maybe like the Nephilim, the Gibberine, the Raphaim, and how maybe hybrid beings pre-flood and post-flood, they didn't need to survive physically necessarily. It's parts of their code survived into us.
I like the idea of like scientists in general, just dudes.
Yeah.
But people don't really want to admit that. But like you get the IKEA box and we put together the table, there's a bunch of screws left and you're like, junk screws. Junk screws. And now this table's all wobbly and you can't figure out why. Like we didn't need that.
Exact shit.
It's the
It's
same
like
thing. We don't know
you
what
get
it
that
is.
whole packet of like reserve screws in case something, whatever. But like the crappy Chinese one that you buy off of Amazon, it's got spare screws, which is probably
I'm
us
talking to myself.
us being morons, right?
I put together, so I got that laser, I got this riser base for it, right?
Yeah.
And it allows you to engrave much taller things. And I put together the riser base, quite extensive.
Yeah.
And I was left over with 5 types of one type of screw.
That's way more than what they usually give you 1 to 2
and
extra
one
ones.
type of another type of screw. And I was like,
junk screws.
I got it. Yeah.
Call this junk DNA, baby.
Junk DNA.
Well,
we don't need that.
Look, all this resonates with me because I know that
find out
that there you go. Enjoy your blender, bottom of the blender. We're coming to this place now where they're realizing, trauma is generational. But before that, we were really comfortable with the idea of certain disease being hereditary and even certain talent groups being passed on. If you were good at basketball, your kid was going to be good at basketball. Likely.
How about hairlines?
Hairlines is one that gets passed on. Was that a stab? Did you just hurt me? What was that, man?
No, that's hurt me too.
There we go. So, ouch. What I don't sometimes what vexes me about the scientific community is there will be an intimate knowledge of a thing by generations past, and we'll call that superstition, or we'll call that, religious belief, or we'll call that, mythology, or what have you. And then science comes along and goes, well, actually, there might be something to that. But the same scientific community that, ridiculed that sort of an idea for the longest time, and then all of a sudden it comes. So what I'm getting at is what you're talking about sounds very much like generational iniquity to me. And I think it's like trauma in our research is the door that allows demonic influence to happen at a greater degree. And then that demonic influence can gain rights over you for, X amount of generations based off of what sin you're willing to commit when that influence comes rolling in. Yeah. And so, and now science is like, oh yeah, well, it looks like you can actually pass on trauma.
So I was, as I was talking to my family about conspiracies, one of the older guys, he's like 70, he started asking me about Christianity, because he's like, oh, you do a Christian podcast? I'm like gonna quiz you, because he's, he went through the whole Catholic Church and all this stuff.
Oh, he went to cemetery school?
Well, no, just like, I guess as like a student.
Okay.
Like Catholic school. So he has like a bad taste in his mouth with Christianity. And he was talking about the idea of basically believing or worshiping God, or basically paying for it. And he's like, it feels like I'm being forced. It feels like it's a threat. And I was like, it's not necessarily a threat. It's more of like you have to aim your worship at one thing or another. You're going to worship this, you're going to worship that. And we got into the idea of the blood sacrifice, and well, how prevalent blood sacrifices are. I was like, you saw the Super Bowl, they're doing like mock blood sacrifices. This is like common. We know that this happens. Jesus did that. This was a blood ritual, but it was God that came as man. So it was a very powerful blood ritual, and that's why it happens. And I was like, that's why you don't need to go through the Pope or a priest to forgive your sins. Like, you just go right to the guy. This was a very powerful thing. So we were talking about blood itself and the significance of blood. And I think it's funny that you're here today, because that's like, if you want to talk about dark DNA, you're talking about the malevolent side of whatever the blood is. The blood is a conduit to this or to that, but blood is very powerful, and it can transmute reality itself. I don't really know what it is, so I'm interested to see like what you've gotten as you've uncovered this subject a little bit deeper.
So with the junk DNA, or calling it dark DNA, I think the fact that science has called it junk DNA is a great mixture of arrogance and ignorance, right? And that's shocking, right? But as we talk about like the malevolent type stuff, I mean, it really comes down to the evidence that trauma, right, leaves these markings. And it's just kind of like, if trauma can etch itself into the regulatory layer of our genome, what else might be hiding there? What about thousands of years of bloodline warfare, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. Where does it stop?
Right.
Is it just
genocide,
your parents or your grandparents?
Ritual, and even what about covenant breaking? What about stuff like that? Like, we're talking about stuff that they talk about repenting stuff for generational inequity, whether it's your great grandfather was a Mason or whatever, add the thing. Where does that stuff, I understand that maybe heaven has a better way to mark you with this stuff, but what better way than to mark your chromosome, mark your genes and your DNA, and have they literally talk about in the science side of this, like it looks like little lock boxes in your genome, right? And we have now scary ass freaking tools like CRISPR that can possibly unlock these things, and that's just in its infancy, right? That this stuff, I mean, goes back to Genesis. Like, what happened when Adam and Eve fell, and what was switched on or switched off in them. Like, how was that done? What's the mechanism? I'm just saying that this could be a look behind the curtain at a mechanism that we haven't really thought of. But it's glaring right in our face.
Well, yeah, something was certainly switched on, even at the Tower of Babel.
Yeah.
Something was switched off. This
120
understanding.
years, right? Our way that we age, and we know that stuff can be manipulated. Well, theoretically, it can be manipulated with these switches, the epigenetic switches, right?
Well, something that makes me really put my money in that corner of things, that they can be switched on and off, is that foreign language syndrome. So somebody was just talking
that's a
about
fun
it.
one.
Yeah, my wife was just talking about it. My wife on yesterday. She came across a TikTok, and and so
Because all good things start on TikTok.
Exactly, yeah. So more or less what it was somebody experienced severe head trauma and then was able to speak another language. And then when you
Was
look
the
into
British lady?
I'm not really sure, but I know that in the comments section, it just begat a plethora of other people saying, you know, I went through this and, you know, suddenly understood, you know, complex music theory and all kinds of different things. And so that speaks to the idea that, in my opinion, all this information, and this might deviate a little bit, but all this information is out there. It's alive. It's in the ether. It exists. And what we're switching on and off is our ability to channel that information at any given
Well,
time.
it happens on Sunday. The ability for some certain people to translate
I
tongues.
called it again. I leaned over to my wife and I
Right.
said, they're going to do it. And she went, I could see that guy over there. He's getting a little
Not
jittery.
just speaking, but translating in tongues.
Translating in tongues.
Which is certainly a gift.
Yeah.
Although, does it happen every time?
Well, I
don't
mean,
know.
I don't, you know, it's nice. So
This guy's an unbeliever.
no, I'm not saying I don't believe it. I'm just saying, you know, it's taken some time to acclimate to, and I can't place the good or the bad in its contribution. But
to get back on topic, what you were just talking about, Bennett, it's an interesting. There's an interesting story that I always remember. I think it's Dr. Laura Baker, who will be on tomorrow.
I can't wait. I love Dr. Laura. We got to get her to Bohemian Grove, by the way.
Yeah, that would be a trip. But
So, yeah, what?
she I think it was her own story where she was sleeping but praying for deliverance, and in this like state of either like fasting or something like that, she's discovering herself inside of herself, walking down a maze.
Right.
And she turns a corner of this like maze, this like whole like room of many hallways and many doors that you can go through. And within one of these hallways, when she turns, there's like an entity, I think some sort of a demonic entity, and he's sitting and he has an altar. He's built an altar as like a stopping point at this hallway. I guess there's stuff behind him. You can go left, right, or go past them. And that was
You're talking about Laura Sanger?
No, Laura Baker.
Dr. Laura Baker.
We've had Laura Sanger on. She crushes too, but this is
she crushes too, but this is awesome.
this is a different Laura.
Never heard of her.
I
Another
think this
Dr.
Laura, by
Laura.
the way, as
write it
renowned
down.
as Dr. Laura Sanger is, Laura Baker is one of these like
she's the best.
people that we've discovered, and I think she's gonna blow up. She's gonna be huge, and we're gonna be like, we were friends with her before she blew up. But yeah,
I have her books, but she's actually coming on to talk about her next book tomorrow. So I'm really excited.
She's
Sorry,
fantastic.
didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's all right.
No, it's all right. We're going to interrupt you all day. But yeah, the idea is that there was this stronghold within this maze, which you can, like, imagine if you're looking at this room top down. What does that look like? Does that look like a computer chip? Like, what is she traversing
that's
through?
interesting.
Right? Because it's just a labyrinth. And within it, there are strongholds that are set up by these entities who have built literal altars. And she had to like get him out of there. She had to cast him out and then tear down that altar, and then you can pass through. Is that generational iniquity? Is that what it looks like in the spirit realm?
In the spirit, yeah,
it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I think about that, like, you know, people like think about the Roman Empire. It's like, no, I think about Dr. Laura Baker's story.
Yeah.
What were you doing?
What the hell were you doing?
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like the connection too to computer chips. They look like that, you know.
Yeah.
And I think they talk about in my research, and I'm looking to verify that there's some of these genes that literally like look like computer chips.
Yeah.
Like on the gene, right? it wouldn't shock anybody, I'm sure, but I think that's absolutely true.
It's interesting too, because the sigils, the lesser keys of Solomon, look a lot, and those were supposedly used to entrap demons in one way or another. And there's a Dr. Laura Baker. I mean, Laura Baker's not a doctor. Laura Baker's
I keep calling her a doctor.
I'm gonna call her a doctor.
Whatever, we'll call her a doctor.
She'd be healing. So yeah, those lesser keys of Solomon, they look like computer chips.
Absolutely.
So that comes up a lot.
It's kind of freaky how much stuff actually does look like. I mean, even ruins, right? Throughout the world look like computer chips. Like if you look at aerial views of Angkor Wat and places like that, you're like, man, this is a freaking semiconductor, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think what we're experiencing when we see that is the fractal nature of reality, and it's that spiritual principle is as above, so below. What happens in the spiritual realm, it is mirrored in the physical realm over time. And much of the systems that we have here in the physical realm, we may not realize it are actually emulations of something that exists in the spiritual. So,
dude, I'm telling you, I love that I do this show and that I'm privy to this conversation, because I'm having this black belt level conversation after 2 Long Island iced teas, and I'm explaining it to like my aunt and then another like older man.
Yeah.
And I was like, you got to understand the fractal nature of like as above, so below of reality. Yeah. But as I'm laying it out for them, they're going like they called me crazy for a long time, but now they're like, damn.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yep.
Maybe.
Honestly, I just want to take a quick moment to say how blessed we are that that's the thing that we get to look at on a regular basis every single day, and we get to take people along on the journey. And it's like, and then you talk to somebody who's living life regular style, and they're like, "Whoa, dude, what?" So yeah, that's
handle it.
It comes up a lot, man. But that whole thing of you know, the sigils, a city grid will look like that. Ancient ruins look like that. Yeah. And then I guess even DNA, which is unshocking.
Yeah. Well, which to bring up what with the Dr. Baker's or Laura Baker's
yes
dream or vision or whatever she's having. I mean, it makes sense because we're talking about. I mean, I'm not saying scientists have found giant DNA, right? But what I am saying is that there are enormous regions of our genome that they have no biological function, but they show repeated patterns like, and this is what it is, like locked doors. And like they were tampered with something that didn't follow normal evolution, period. Like there's markers that show that stuff has been tampered with. And so the hypothesis that mainstream science won't entertain yet is that what if this non-coding DNA is it's just left behind by evolution, but as a safety vault built to contain ancient genetic memories, abilities, or even identity. I went down the rabbit hole with like Nimrod and some of these guys that became Gibberine, right?
Right.
Gibberine weren't necessarily born giants, they became giants or mighty men, right? And what does that mean translation wise? But I've talked to Gary Wayne extensively about Nimrod, and it seems like he became, well, and even our friend Doc Brown, who you guys know, talks about the book of, I want to say it's Jasher, where Enoch and Nimrod get into a battle, and Enoch kills Nimrod, but he was a giant in that.
Oh, you
right?
mean Esau? Esau.
What did I say?
Yeah.
What did I say? Either way, the Epic
Enoch.
of Esau. Enoch. Yeah. Esau kills Nimrod, and Nimrod was described as a giant.
Yeah.
But he's also a son of Noah, like not a son of Noah, but he's in the lineage of Noah through Ham. So he wasn't born all, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so
it gets
I'm thinking about a skill
set. There's a lot there though.
Like let's say you know, because before when I said information is kind of moving about that way, is it that you're conducting this frequency, and within this frequency the information exists, or is it you have access to a select few, like if another individual experienced head trauma, would they be able to speak a language that their ancestors spoke? Or, you know, is that the way that we're accessing these traits? I don't know. I mean, I wonder, like, if you can learn piano after a head injury, is it because your ancestor was fluent in piano? And then that kind of opens up the door for what people think are past lives. Because I don't think that that's so accurate, this idea of reincarnation, and that you are having a past life regression session and you're having access to all of this stuff that happened and you're like, oh, that was my whole life. It's like, was it, or are you just tapping into somebody that was in your lineage?
I think they're like strong imprints.
Yeah.
Like my uncle, my grandfather had left that guitar for me, or he left the guitar for my uncle who didn't want anything to do with him, and my mother happened to have it. And when I saw it, it like called out to me. And I was like, I don't know anything about this, but I gotta like learn this thing. And then, like, you know, 15, 20 years later, I've like been playing it ever since. But what you're talking about, I don't know if you came across this study. This is directly from Sean from Kingdom in Context, who we should reach back out on. So the book of Enoch, chapter 7, and the first verse, it says, and all the others together with them took unto themselves wives, and each chose for himself one, and they began to go in unto them and defile themselves with them. And they taught them charms and enchantments, and this is the big part, and the cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants, whatever that means. Why they said that, I don't know. But when we're talking about Gibberim became Gibberim, that's like an effect afterwards. So like regular human being became. And Sean tells us about gibberellin.
Yes.
It's a crucial group of plant hormones that regulate many aspects of growth and development, primarily by stimulating cell elongation and division, leading to taller stems, seed germination, flowering, and larger fruits. This is the main component that's in Miracle Grow. This is what makes shit grow big.
Yeah. This is what turns on and off like the growth
it's
factor.
literally called gibberellin.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
and it makes shit big.
It makes shit big. And then again, in Enoch, they're talking about them like, oh, they just took the woman. And then after they raped him, they were like, by the way, here's how you cut roots, whatever that is,
in the
with the
same
pharmakeia.
sentence, like it doesn't even.
And acquainted with plants. We're like, all right, what's that mean?
I mean, my grandfather was a botanist, and one of his things was he worked for a company that basically created the seedless orange. And that's how they did that, right? They were cutting roots and taking grafts from one tree to another. But what's any different than doing that in your DNA with CRISPR or some other, you know, who knows? Gilgamesh's freaking resurrection chamber. I don't know. Yeah. I'm just saying there's, you know.
That's what they're describing. This is CRISPR
like
of antiquity.
Right. Exactly.
And this is why when we hear about like going in and killing an entire city and their livestock and also destroying all their plant life, it's like, oh, because everything was a genetic manipulation. Everything was being genetically modified.
I brought this up to Matt, and he was like, just made the face when I was like, when Solomon wasn't allowed to trade horses with Egypt. And I was like, do you think that there was like some kind of weird Nephilimized horse? And he just made a face. But I was like, nah, I think there was, like, that was one of his things where it's like, yo, don't bother with these people.
Yeah.
Do your own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like you, and then I went, you know, I dove into this last night, and then I had weird dreams because you know how that shit goes. And literally it was about like, literally about them, like, you know, creating the fallen and whoever, creating minotaurs and centaurs and, you know, all these damn creatures. And this is essentially, in my opinion, how they did it. Like it's the same type of thing, right?
I don't think that there's any difference between now and then, because, you know, in antiquity you had all these centaurs and minotaurs and, you know, horrifying chimeric creations. And then today we have them still, but they're called cryptids. Right. And, you know, you see some giant half man, half dog. It's and 7 feet tall, and it's running alongside your tractor trailer, and then there's the scratches down the side of the cab to prove it. Like, I hear these stories all the time. Shout out to Tony Merkel, who's just become a sort of a chronicle of all of these, and you don't know, it's hard to place them because it's like you hear them enough and you go, these creatures seem to exist.
Yeah,
Because by this point, there's hundreds of people who have experienced this one, hundreds of people who have experienced that one. And then you start to look into the proximity between their appearances and military bases. And it's not hard to draw this line of correlation. Like, are they creating them? Are they experimenting? I mean, why wouldn't they be experimenting?
Yeah.
People have
I'm digging right now for an episode that's talking about it's basically a black program, right? Military program that is about splicing, creating a super soldier, but using werewolf DNA and mixing it with human. So
I would say
that's
that they've nailed that.
getting deep, and it's actually kind of scary is not the right word, because nothing at this point shocks me. It's just, I'm here because of a Bigfoot experience that I had as a kid. Like these things, something's out there, something happened, or there's something, I came across something as a kid, and that's what started me down this path in this podcast zone. And then it just turned into all of this madness. So,
do you think your encounter with this Bigfoot left some sort of generational trauma on you? Is that what you're saying? Like an imprint?
Oh, I
on
have
DNA?
no idea, but why wouldn't it? If my post-traumatic stress from military service why wouldn't that trauma as a kid, or like generational trauma from abuse and all these other things? I mean, that's what we're saying, is that this can imprint continuously, and it's wild.
I think that because I have a very similar thing where I experienced a bunch of supernatural crap growing up, and it just permanently flavors your interest. And I think that is to say, when you see something, no matter how young you are, that just defies everything that you've come to understand, and then for the rest of your life, you spend your time trying to place it in the realm of shit that exists, and it just doesn't fit. I don't know if because I don't think that trauma is it's a blanket terminology, and I think that there should be some subcategories of trauma. Trauma being some event that leaves its imprint on you for the rest of your life. This trauma is more of a fascination. It's more of an inability to move on from something that doesn't fit the paradigm. Yeah. That is, and that's a form of trauma. That's a thing that never leaves you. It imprints on you forever. So you seeing a Bigfoot, or me seeing, having whatever these experiences, like, you will spend the rest of your life. And then I guess the really sad thing is, like all trauma, it leads to a dark place. And that dark place is podcasting. That's where it takes you.
I mean, have you guys ever heard of the concept of the uncanny valley?
This is where you have like a machine or something like that just like
but it doesn't have to be a machine. It could be anything. It could be like a vampire. It could be, we have this innate fear of stuff that's humanoid but off, right? Something about it's off, and you're just like, what? Because where does that come from then? This is what we're talking about, right? Is that type of uncanny valley. I mean, to get a little sciencey about it, the study that I talked about, that the children of genocide survivors, and they show altered what's called DNA methylation, right, on a stress response gene, because the junk DNA now they've done they know about what 10% of it, and that's a conservative view. I mean, somewhere between 10 and 20%, they know what these things are doing right now because they've started studying it. But, and of course, they also know what vaccines do, but anyway.
Yeah, exactly. They also know that even though there's all this junk DNA, they know that like the closest relative we have are chimpanzees.
Yeah.
Like, I know that from the DNA that I know nothing about.
Or that we all have what are they called? Cavemen. No, they're not cavemen.
Neanderthal.
Neanderthal and or Desnovan DNA imprinted. Like we have like my DNA test says I have 2.49% of Neanderthal. I don't know what that is, but
they could tell from the bones.
From the
right.
bones.
So, but the altered DNA methylation and stress genes, so they've actually named some of these things. So it's like FKBP5 and the same pattern seen in their parents, right? So the parents pass that methylation from that DNA on that gene to their children, and then they've recorded some of it to the grandchildren as well. So yeah, that's just the science part of it that they've actually got. But it's, do we take science's word? I don't know, but I wonder, it's just one of those things, right?
So in the Bible, it talks about 4 to 7 generations is how much like the sins of the fathers can pass on to their sons. And I wonder if that's an actual technical time frame, given that there's a dilution from each generation downward. Like if the grandparents pass it on to the parents, and then it's seen, but it's lesser in the children of the parents, and so on and so forth. If you continue that, does it take for really maybe, let's say, the highest level of trauma to finally be out of your genome? It takes 7 generations.
So they've shown. So it's funny that you bring that up, but they were showing that there was one group in the study where they were able to go all the way to great grandchildren. So that would be 4 generations, right?
That's interesting.
And that the 4th generation, about 50% of them had it and 50% of them didn't.
And so I wonder then, if you went an extended generation, if you went to the 5th, it would still be there, but be lesser.
Maybe 25%. Right.
Man, that's kind of crazy, because once again, science just going, well, yeah, I guess that was true.
I guess that part of the Bible's totally true. So,
man,
I mean,
that's fascinating.
I mean, it's just kind of cool. I don't know. It just gets my brain working. It's how I work. And, but it doesn't also necessarily have to be all bad, right? Could it be that we remember, things that our bloodline survived, whether it's, the victories and the horrors, not, the blessings and the curses, because what is a covenant then, right? That's kind of this whole idea that we take along with us, and prayers and the screams, and what are we actually holding on to, and what's linking itself to us.
Well, that's interesting, because Exodus 25-6, God is blessing up to the 3rd and 4th generations. It does seem like, so here, you shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the 3rd and 4th generation of those who hate me, but showing steadfast love to thousands of those who love me and keep my commandments. I'm trying to see if there is a precedent for blessing for a similar. So I keep my promise for thousands of generations and forgive evil sin. I would imagine that it wouldn't be, you wouldn't be surprised to find that there's a mirrored side of that. The same way a curse or trauma can be passed down, you would have something positive passed. And of course, right, because we see that passed down within skill sets and things like that. We just highlighted that, somebody who has a great deal of athleticism in whatever sport, oftentimes their children would have that. So there does seem to be a positive. I wonder how positive that could get. If it goes to transcend sports.
And of course, I think it doesn't necessarily broadcast evenly across the population, right? I mean, you're going to have variation with all of these things, right? Because I think that's just the way it works. The thing that kind of creeps me out, though, is like all the stuff that we're doing with CRISPR now. And like, bottom line is, and I say this continuously in my podcast, Bottom line is we don't know shit about anything. I mean, like we
yeah.
have theories and we have this, and as soon as you think you've got it figured out, you get punched in the face. No, you don't. And so one of the things that, especially with the, you know, the recent, what do we want to call it, pandemic, and all the crap coming out of that, I mean, that's gene manipulation to an extent with the, right? And so when you take it to another level with CRISPR, where you're actually splicing and cutting into the root, right? Like you brought up earlier, and then replacing it either with something or taking a piece from here and moving it over here. That's terrifying, because what are you doing? What are you unlocking? What are the 2 and 3 down the road effects of that? You know,
I would imagine, I'm sorry, I was going to say, I would imagine that the public is getting a version of CRISPR that has already been utilized by the military industrial complex and the intelligence communities for some time. You know, they're obviously, and I know it's supposed to be unethical, and we wouldn't do this, right? But there are obviously stories of cloning facilities and labs where they're, you know, they're raising children from test tube and upward, and they would, I would imagine, try to use that in a military capacity first and foremost. You know, this child that doesn't have parents, and they're switching things on, like you know, growth inhibitors, and you know, if there's a ceiling on strength and fast twitch muscle fiber, I'm sure that they're blowing through that, and whatever version of CRISPR that the public has gained access to almost certainly has a governor on it. But they've of course they've used this to create all sorts of, and you'll hear these stories where people will have a bizarre encounter and they bump into, you know, an area they're not supposed to be in, and there's a military presence, but like 5 of the 20 soldiers are really big, oddly big, and they look the same. And they look the same. They have the same face. I've heard that.
Cloning. I have to.
Yeah, man.
I spent 10 years in the military, and there's just places on some of these bases where it's just, you know, I don't care what your clearance is, you're not going in. And it's just like, what is there? Anyway.
And that's the same thing where, like I said, where you'll hear these chimeric creatures in and around military bases, to the extent where some people have begun to speculate that they're actually like a form of guard dog.
Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't it be? Especially when you've got all the places that a lot of these stories come from. I mean, you brought up Tony Merkel earlier. There was a guy there's a base down in Louisiana called Fort Polk. And that's where the Joint Readiness Training Center is. And there was a gentleman that was on that podcast that talked about his encounter that he had with Dogman. And but this Dogman was like, it was like intelligent. It wasn't like trying to eat him or anything like that. It was like they were doing some stuff in an area that might not have been part of the, you know, where they play the war games, and that he had kind of maybe ventured into a spot, and that this thing acted like a sentinel. And I've heard this story multiple times from many places. Yeah, and I mean, all you have to do is look at mythology too, right? That these guys, the Anubis type folks, and the centaur. So many of them are sentinels, right? I mean, what better, dude? Put a giant minotaur at the freaking gate of something I'm not going through, right? I mean, come on. I'm just saying.
It makes me wonder as well. Like, we know that the issue with the Nephilim is that when they die, they don't ascend or descend. They're just kind of stuck because their soul is like neither here nor there. So when we're talking about tampering with these genetic markers, these DNA markers, if they are a result of tampering, does that like short wire your soul? Like, did they have one, and then because of the tampering,
Yeah.
that's been like,
You can make a husk, is what you're asking?
yeah, I mean, you mess around with electricity enough, you'll touch a wire here and then something in the next room won't work.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't know what I did here, but these lights work now. That one's off.
And that's one of the
That's
fears with
interesting.
CRISPR, actually, because what if we start turning, or they've figured out how to turn them off. And now they've basically just created shells that can be reanimated, right?
Yeah.
By the Nephilim spirits.
Yeah, and throughout our research, you find over and over again that there is a bloodline component to the ease with which you can be possessed. So some royal bloodlines have much more of a strong connection to a particular principality or a particular, power in the spirit realm. So what if you have this perfectly engineered thing that has that genetic component that allows it to be easily inhabited by that spirit, and it also doesn't have a spirit of its own. So now it is just this inhabitable automaton. Yeah,
for sure.
that's a problem.
I mean,
Or
you
even
take it another
races.
step, right? Go ahead. Sorry.
There's some races that are like more susceptible to schizophrenia, naturally susceptible to schizophrenia, not
Ashkenazi.
Yeah, not through intervention with
That's some straight Jerry Marzinski shit there. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know where that leads, and that's kind of interesting because that's a generational pathway as well, probably through trauma.
So kind of funny that you bring that up. I worked, and see, this is because my brain just goes down these roads. I worked as I was a mental health professional. I wasn't a counselor or whatever for the VA for years. And I worked with some of the, I guess you'll call them sickest folks, but folks that had schizophrenia, type 2, bipolar, just the sickest of a lot of these folks, right? And I had, it's just kind of funny that I had these two guys, both were diagnosed schizophrenics. Both of them, one was either way, it doesn't matter what kind of veteran they were, but they were both Jewish. And they were both schizophrenic. And neither of them would even, because I'm a Christian, I have been forever. And I have things in my office that signify that. And these folks would not come into my office. They would not come in and talk to me. They wanted to talk to me. I'd have to talk to them out in the common area. I'm just saying, it's just, there's breadcrumbs left all over the place for my personal experience. And this is some of them. And it's just wild.
That makes me think about when the Pharisees said, "Put this curse on our children."
Yep.
And then
That's
you look at
that's a blood curse.
That's a
That's a blood
yeah.
curse.
That's what they
Absolutely.
asked for.
And then you look at this prevalence of schizophrenia within the Jewish community, or at least Ashkenazi, and you go, well,
right.
is that what
God was like, okay, cool.
Here you go.
Here you go. Have this. Play. Have fun with that. Another place that this goes to is if you start thinking about the mark of the beast. Could the mark of the beast, we've talked about it. I know it's been talked about on your show and many others about the mark of the beast being genetic modification, right? Or the image of the beast, like biotech identity, right? So you're talking about things that are imprinted that you can't see, but they're imprinted in your DNA. I mean, what better place? Even 666 man's numbers, like engineered perfection, right? And then we get into AI and DNA convergence. Like it's just a giant rabbit hole, man.
Yeah. I mean, I think that genetic manipulation is going to be a part of it, just based off of what we saw during the
Yeah.
It has this genetic component. It's turning off and on genes. It's a gene therapy, is how they coined the terminology, and that's how you know it's safe for you, because they tossed the word therapy in there. And
The rapist?
I mean, there's all kinds of areas though that, like, you could call them quarantined regions of your DNA, right?
Yeah, that's a very interesting thing. Every time you mention that, I mean, just this idea of areas that are closed off or locked for whatever reason. I mean, you brought up the Tower of Babel earlier, And you think about that foreign language syndrome, and when it says that God confused the languages, it's like, did he just turn off that little switch so that we couldn't speak the same language? Maybe he turned off that switch that allowed for telepathic communication, because that is one of them. You can open that door. You just have to cause a disassociative state in an individual. So it's like, we do have that hardwiring that is in our DNA. You could argue, and you could see that in the telepathy tapes.
This is what I'm saying when I was arguing with Matt about angels not being shit. I was like, humans are really cool, dude. Like, humans have all this stuff.
Programmability. You could, modify us in this way or that way. But I look at that and I go, yeah, there's clearly some function of the human, disposition that allows for telepathy. I don't know what that function looks like scientifically or biologically, but does it look like a closed segment of our DNA? And can all these doors be opened, whether it's by CRISPR, or is trauma the key to opening them in some way, shape, or form? And I think that one is.
Well, I think it's just different ways to the same goal.
Yeah.
I mean, you could totally even think about it in the fact of like them being able, and I say them, the proverbial them, they could erase spiritual traits like discernment. I mean, that could be part of the mark or whatever. I'm just saying, discernment, empathy, even your soul. What's that? I guess it's one of those things. I'm sorry to bring so much theory to all of this, but obviously that's kind of what it is. And it's just this is what I do. It's broadcasting seeds, right? I plant seeds in people's minds and get them to thinking, whether they agree with it or not, it doesn't matter. It's that if you can think of it, it can freaking happen. And I think we've learned that throughout time.
That's a question I was asking recently, though. Like, so we know that we're three parts. We're body, we're spirit, and we're soul. But the difference between the spirit and the soul, I don't know exactly.
Yeah, that's a little bit
what that is.
What is that? What is that, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's delineation drawn there, and I don't know what the hell it is. I mean, I know that we have a spirit, but we also have a void in us that could be filled with another spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, that gets tricky. So you have to accept Jesus Christ and ask, to be baptized in the Holy Spirit.
Yeah. So maybe it's part of, spirit is that part you get from God, right? I mean, you get it all from God, but it's like a part that, I don't know.
No, but I do agree with what you're saying about the mark of the beast. And there's this idea that men will wish for death, but they won't be able to die.
Yeah, which is
and I'm
wild.
wondering like what you could do to our DNA that would. What's that?
Oh no, I'm gonna look through this book because there is like this book is He Came to Set the Captives Free, which I don't really recommend people buy. Here's a part here. There's like a diagram.
Damn, you found that fast.
Yeah, I mean
that was crazy.
This isn't my book, but it's a diagram right here of. I'll go widescreen on me so you can kind of see it, demonstrating what the body and the spirit and the soul is. So you can see at the very bottom there, like the link between the two. There was no link when they were in Eden, but then after the fall, there was a link. It's very strange how she explains this. And I've read through this a bunch of times, and I still don't quite.
I guess I probably have to finish reading that book because my wife, she, I saw in her notes, he came to free the captives. And then I was like, you mean he came to set the captives free? And she's like, what do you mean? And I was like, there's something written down in your notes. It looks like a book. And she's like, oh yeah, I came across it on TikTok. And I thought that it would be up your alley. So I wanted to write it down so I could tell you about it. I was like, oh, I actually have that. And I got like maybe a third of the way through it. And then I didn't finish it.
This is a heavy book.
But that only happened like yesterday. And now it's come up again. So I guess I have to read it. That's how I feel whenever I get like a little serendipitous thing.
Was like rituals. You guys brought up Solomon, right? And how rituals can activate code and like repentance can silence it.
That's interesting. I've been going through this repentance, I don't know what process, where it's like one thing to repent for like a sin if you transgress or you're disobedient or something that you did and you want to hone in on that. But I've been trying to go through the Rolodex lately. So I'll be like driving and I'll just be talking to God and trying to like really remember these things and ask to be forgiven for them specifically. And I try to like really think about it so that I know. It's like, you ever have somebody apologize?
Yeah.
And you go like, you didn't mean that shit. You're just saying, I'm sorry. And then there's something that's like,
You're
apologize.
just checking a block.
Yeah. And it's like, I know what I did and I know why this was wrong. And this is why it sucks. And I'm sorry for that. Like, it's a different kind of apology. And so I'm just trying to go through that, that whole Rolodex of all the ways in which I've sucked, since, forever.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I've done the
that's an
same
interesting
thing.
concept.
I literally, when I started down this road of, I guess you would call it repentance, right? Like hardcore repentance. And really looking into like, stuff from that maybe my great grandfather did. Right. So it's like, you think through like with yourself, your mind, and where am I most mentally attacked? And like take like anxiety, intrusive thoughts, hopelessness, stuff like that, and like make a note of it, like a journal entry. Then I would go through my heart and that wound that won't close, that keeps reopening, like whether it's rejection or abandon. For me, it was really like abandonment and guilt and shame stuff. And then you move on to like territory and like what part of your life feels consistently and constantly contested, whether it's relationships or finances, issues with your home, and maybe it's a region you even live in, right? Under each section, write one specific example that you're facing and then address those, right?
Yeah.
And pray aloud, whatever. I'm just saying this is like a lesson in spiritual warfare, I guess, to an extent. But who are you really fighting? So
I think that's what God likes, accountability.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know. I think that some people, I think repentance is probably a process. It's not just like a thing that you can do in one go. It's like there are things that are going to come to your
blankets. Like the blanket one, like you can do it, but you're not going to deal with everything.
Yeah, so. Yeah, and so, I think it's, you hone in on a thing and you talk about it and you ask God to forgive you, and then you trust in the Lord that this is going to be taken care of, and that this was all paid for on the cross. And, you just kind of keep fishing and you keep going through these things and looking for different things that you've engaged in. But I was going back and I was thinking about that whole, what's passed on from your ancestors. And, my grandmother, the audience knows, she was big into, I wouldn't say exactly witchcraft, but there was like this clairvoyance thing, and she did have her crystals, and she had like a crystal ball, et cetera, et cetera. And then if you look into her paperwork, which she wrote a lot and she left a lot behind, she's writing extensively on the process of remote viewing. And she's a alien abductee victim, which, I don't think she knew exactly what she was dealing with. And so she interpreted that through the wrong lens, I would guess. But is it just the strange things that happened to me as a kid that pushed me down this path? Or is it like some, because it's not a skill set, it's particularly an interest that seems to have been passed down to me. And so even though Grandma was of the school of thought that she was abducted, I think I've managed to process it through the correct lens. But yeah, it just is this question that I have where it's just like, is this because of, seeing strange shit and hearing strange shit, or is it because she was like tenaciously about this and this was some sort of like generational imprint that gets passed down?
I love the cope of I got no skills, but I got a lot of trauma.
Got no skills, but I got a lot of trauma. Yeah. Yeah, dude.
I can relate to that too.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, I it just so yeah, man, I just wanted to share something that just has kind of hit me the last few weeks, and thought you guys would enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, and it does open up a lot of rabbit holes. I'm sure that given enough time, these are things that would be confirmed one way or another by the scientific community, or
They'll call it something else, though.
They'll call it something else,
Of course,
right? Or something.
it'll
gay.
be, it'll be like some kind of, something RNA or like some weird,
Yeah, and
They'll
then they'll
add-
tell you, by the way, they'll come up with, that's really the threat. That's really the threat. Oh man, that just dawned on me. The real threat is when they come along and they say, and we have the solution. So where our solution would be repentance and asking for forgiveness and working through this and laying it at God's feet and wanting to do what God wants you to do, his plan, not your plan. That's the solution. They're going to go, no, dude, we could just turn that off.
Yeah,
We
I
can
mean,
just
I
turn
was
that
thinking about it with like when we talk about bringing this into warfare to an extent, is that we see that they actually have nanobots, right? And that they can inject them into, whether it's for medical use or whatever. Well, what says that they don't have bots that can go in and manipulate your DNA, right? And it's kind of like
dude,
I just get that
course.
scene of the Matrix when the black ooze is coming over him and then it hits him and goes down his mouth, and it's like you're just getting seized up and encoded by this.
Yeah, man.
I don't know. I
think that's the black goo overlap with the black nanobot.
Yeah.
Kind of. I think that's we're manifesting the technological version of a spiritual thing
or something.
Well, that's talked about in Stranger Things, or showed, right?
Yeah.
That same idea.
Well, there's that huge overlap between what we see in film and then like why demonic possession seems to have some sort of kinship or partnership with parasites and mold. Parasites and mold, black mold, parasites, black mold, parasites, black worms, and black mold. These things like work in tandem. And then I have seen these very strange videos where they'll have some, witch doctor, voodoo practitioner, and he's extracting some spirit from an individual. But what comes out of them, what they throw up is like a bundle of black hair almost. And then, of course, we had V on the show, and she has this parasite, infestation kind of a thing going on, but it's demonic. And she brings a sample and shows us, and inside this vial is something that, like, if you looked at it real fast, would look like a black hair. You look at it up close, and you're like, no, this is a little creature. It's some sort of it's got segments to it, and it's got anatomy, and it's more than a hair. There's something here, and this came out of her body.
It was like white fibrous
crap
tendrils
attached to
coming
it,
out of different segments of it.
But then you look at Hollywood, and Hollywood depicts that constantly.
Yeah.
Well, did you guys see this? I mean, this is a little different, but it's showing where they took human flesh, probably grown in a lab, and they were able to animate it with turn it like connect a. So it's kind of like the transhumanist, or it's more like what would you call that? Where they mix human flesh with like robotic stuff.
Okay.
Have you guys seen this video?
No, I don't think so. What is it? So it's flesh
And it's
animated by.
So it's God, I wish I had saved it. But they've got this thing, and it literally they connect pieces of it together with a magnet. And then all of a sudden, this thing, once they get it together, it starts to crawl.
Oh.
And this is done at like an actual university. It's really skirting the edge of genetic testing stuff. God.
I'm looking at things here, and it's like one of them that just came up is they gave a robot a face of living skin. So they create skin, whatever tissue in some sort of a lab scenario, and then they lay it over a robot, and then this allows the robot to smile, which is...
Why not?
That's cute. I like that. That's good. All right. Twitter does not make the best search engine, dude. You just get a lot of horrifying things, and I'm going to stop scrolling now on Twitter looking for that. Yeah.
Man,
so people will speculate often. People will speculate often about the nature of the Antichrist and whether or not this will be like some sort of artificial intelligence made flesh, like if it has a body. I used to joke around with the idea that one of these days Elon Musk was going to die, and that his personality is already backed up on several different Twitter accounts. Adrian Dittman is one of them, and you could just bank that this guy has his entire personality backed up in AI because he is modeled after Iron Man, or Iron Man's modeled after him. What the hell ever, and that was how Iron Man made his artificial intelligence, was some aspect of his own personality backed up. And so I imagine that because he almost certainly has Neuralink, he would expire one way or another, and his corpse would be reanimated via Neuralink because you can send electrical synapses to the brain to keep everything functioning properly, right? If the brain is sending signals to the rest of the body to do X, Y, and Z, then you could feasibly animate it. And then all you do is just upload onto Neuralink one of the many backups of Elon Musk's personality, and then you would have an Antichrist, right? This thing that was not really him, but it looked like him and sounded like him and behaved like him, because for all intents and purposes, it was his own personality.
They joke around, well, not joke around, but Joe Rogan has said this a bunch as well. He's like, with the amount of information that he's put out with his podcast, 3 hours at a pop, and
you could do it to Rogan.
Episodes. Yeah, there's enough information out there to recreate Joe Rogan, his personality, at least what we're privy to. And I'm like, you've been talking about that for quite a while.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's in the works.
We are to that point, undoubtedly. I mean, if we're exposed to technology where they're animating human flesh, and we know that they're growing ears on mice and this and that, then there's a plethora of things that they're doing behind closed doors where you could imagine that some sufficiently passable biomech.
Absolutely.
Right? Think about the Greys.
Yeah.
And if the Greys are really a machination of human beings, which I sometimes wonder about, who knows, the small Greys at least, if we were commissioned to build them, and they are some sort of biomechanical entity that just houses a spirit temporarily, and they go around and they do automaton shit, and then they're discarded in a pile to smell like ass, like Karen Wilkinson says.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, her stories are great about that. It's crazy.
Yes, and they're, I think, a huge factor in this alien disclosure that needs to be highlighted. But even if we didn't build it, as above, so below, it looks to be that thing could be emulated. You could have a biomechanical flesh suit.
Well, they're calling it Oscar. So if you want to look it up that way, Oscar, the flesh-based AI robot that has,
Oscar, the flesh-based.
I don't like the based.
I don't like
flesh.
any of that.
Oscar, the based flesh robot. Oh, dude, I don't know what that is.
Looks like a walking chicken wing or some weird thing. Like, it's crazy.
Did you find it yet, Top? Because I have it. I don't. It's really gross looking.
No, it is gross.
Ew, dude! It does look like a chicken wing. Okay.
Oh, wait. I think I have it here.
Man-made horrors beyond your comprehension. What the...
Isn't that crazy?
No, not that one. Go back and then look at the one right beneath it.
But that's it right there. That is it. The
okay.
Prototype.
Go.
Because so when they say human modular prototype, that makes it even creepier. It's like plug and play
modular
pieces. So they're like magnetic and they like clip together. You just watch. It's horrible.
If you back out and go to the one right beneath it by Dakshana Morthy, that's a cat. Actually, you know what? Don't go scrolling because you know how this shit goes. Let's never mind. Before we show some crazy. I got it. Okay. Man, because this one is really good. It looks just like a crawling chicken wing. Just like you described. Segments. Oscar the robot share. And okay. Do we have this right here? We want to bring this one up. Okay, here we go. This is, I'm sure it's fine.
Avert your eyes.
Oh God, guys!
Wait,
what
is this it?
It's the same one.
No, this is not the one. Oh, come on! I'm sorry. Hold on a
Let's
second.
look through all your stuff.
I don't want to do that because you never know what kind of crazy thing. All right, here we
Kind
go.
of crazy things I've been searching.
No, not for me. I mean, I don't search anything, but you search like the most innocuous thing here.
Oh, yeah.
And it just turns into
Guys, don't search Taco Tuesday.
Oh no! Don't do that on the thing. No. Okay,
Huge
we got
mistake.
it. We got it. Here it is. Share. Okay. This is great. I love this one.
Oh boy, what the hell is that? Ew.
Imagine this
We're
thing
looking
coming
at
for you.
Oscar, the first human modular prototype that is able to live in various setups. What's going to happen is that I'm going to connect the brain to the heart module to activate the blood
Made
circulation.
of soil and creep.
Now, the lung is going
It
to start
reminds me
breathing.
of the things from Half-Life.
You can see both organs are now collaborating.
Yes.
I can add a kidney module,
A kidney module.
And now it can piss. Very
and if I add a limb
Add a
module,
liver and it can get drunk. I love it.
The limb
it
module.
starts actuating the organism to move. Now
What
it's
is it
looking
doing?
for the optimal temperature, which is 37 degrees.
What?
If I add another limb, Oscar will recognize it and beneficiate from new possibilities.
I hate Oscar.
It looks like a chicken wing.
Oscar
It's
is
so
terrifying.
gross, dude.
I'm never eating
That is-
chicken wings again. I live in New York too,
dude,
man. They're
That is
everywhere.
that is rough. I don't like the way that thing looked. I don't like the way it was looking at me. That was crazy, man.
What's your job? He's like, I make biomechanical flesh. I was like,
In the most
Kill that
creepy
guy.
German accent you've ever heard in your entire life. That guy's like straight from Operation Paperclip. That's like the
Dude,
dude's
I mean, but
great
I wonder
grandson
how
or
old
something.
that
That's some
was.
genetic freaking lineage going down that's teaching
Yeah.
him to do crazy stuff because his great grandfather was probably you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, that's 100% things in the spiritual realm whispering, make it look like a chicken wing. Yeah.
Wow.
Let me look just like a chicken wing. That'll do it. Yeah.
Just brutal.
I don't know where we're going, man, but
Sorry to scar your eyes with that, man. That
I mean, I'm
I saw it
glad
the other
that
day and I showed my daughter and she was like, "What the hell?"
just
I
more
wonder how-
generational trauma for your
Yeah,
daughter.
exactly. Just
How-
onto my grandkids.
how long ago did Oscar the flesh, because I bet you this is a little bit older than you'd imagine.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
And I bet you by now they've really, really refined it. And if they have Oscar the flesh robot that looks like a fist with chicken wings attached to it, they at least have a whole arm with, wings and legs attached to it now. Come into being. What do I say? How long ago did that come into being? I'm gonna get this demon to tell me really quick, ChatGPT, because I think that they it's Oscar the Grouch. No, you idiot! Oh my God, the flesh robot.
Oscar
2000
the flesh robot.
So that's wow. Okay, 15 years old.
That's
Yeah, so
terrifying. That means they have
100%.
full functioning cyborgs now. Yeah, absolutely.
I think we've
Unequivocally.
probably got
They're
a couple of them on the
probably
world
in-
stage.
Yes, they're probably. Some of them are probably. There's probably a couple actors. Maybe they replaced. I'm not going to say it. Never mind.
What's what's her name? Ocasio-Cortez.
Yeah.
What's her first name? Ashley.
Alexandria.
Alexandria.
Yeah, she's one.
I was
She's-
thinking myself, what's the girl that was in Wicked? That's in Wicked.
Oh, which one? The two? You've seen those?
Both of them. Maybe both of them. I
They're
don't
a
know.
mess
because
right now.
They're a disaster. So
The black
either
bald
way,
chick that played Jesus and what's the
Ariana
other one?
Grande. That's
Ariana Grande. Yeah,
Yeah.
And they both look like they're on death's door.
just
They're
wild.
100% flesh automatons. I don't like that thing. There, that was
That
nasty.
thing is creepy. It's
I
gonna be
don't
in your
like it.
nightmares tonight. So
Well, Bennett, this is a fascinating conversation, man. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because I know you said it was just a thought, but it does seem to connect to so many things, and I have a feeling that it's going to come up in, future conversations.
agreed.
I think it's one of those things where you know, and this is how a lot of our theories start, where you have just a feeling about a thing.
Yep.
You know, and you start, well, half the time we don't even really start digging. The pieces just kind of fall into our lap.
The segments.
They
connect
Yeah.
together.
I don't like
And that's
the
how
word
it kind of
segments.
that's how it kind of just fell into my lap too. Is I literally started because my daughter's like asking for help with a project, and I'm like, okay, well then I start digging, and you start scratching into it, and the next thing you know, the bottom caves out, and you're like, oh my god, what did I just fall into? And then on top of that, if you have an active imagination, you just can't shut it off. So
Yeah. The bottom falls out and you
It
fall
does.
into a pit of flesh segments.
of flesh, literally Oscars crawling all over your body.
So many. You know what I really don't like too is like, why do they have to make them slimy? And could you
Yeah,
make
like
them
why do you have to? Why does it have to have that sheen?
can't
Which
you
you
just
know
powder
is
'em?
just like, ooh.
It's
They
really-
And they
could've
keep
put,
them. They
like-
were saying that you have to keep it at 37 degrees or
That's
something
odd.
like that.
I think what you need to do is toss them in some flour.
Isn't that cold? 30. I mean,
little
I
bit.
guess
I mean,
that's
Celsius. I
Cold,
don't know.
right?
That is pretty cold. I don't know.
Yeah, toss them in some flour and
Fry him up.
Bread. I wonder how they taste.
cornstarch. Never heard it.
Disgusting. Bennett, thank you for joining us, brother. Before we get out of here, let's one more time tell everybody where they can find you.
Best place. You can find me wherever podcasts are at. I also do YouTube and some Rumble, but it is what it is. It's just another thing. Anyway,
Oh, you're
where
doing the Book of Job?
Yeah, that was so I've been doing well. That's actually I can blame you guys for that because you introduced me to Ed Mabry, who is just a wizard.
He's the best.
Literally.
We got to get him
And
back on.
so I went through his. I've been going once a month, right through the Supernatural Bible.
Yeah.
So I was like, I need to do a segment on this just so I can learn it better myself. And so I've been doing that. I'll take a book every Sunday and do it and do the same kind of thing and then publish it. So I just published the Book of Job, and it'll make your head explode.
It's a wild one. I'm only halfway through it, so no spoilers.
No, I
No
won't.
spoilers.
Actually, I'm a little bit more than halfway
His
through.
whole
but
family dies.
Yeah. So, but Broadcasting
flattened
Seeds,
by a house.
literally, broadcastingseeds.com is probably the best place because that's got everything. So
Awesome.
I really
awesome.
appreciate you guys having me on again.
Yeah, of course,
And,
man. It's always a pleasure getting to talk
I love
to
your
you.
new
and-
studio, guys.
Thank
and
you.
You guys are killing it, and I love
We're
it.
trying.
I love to see you guys killing it.
Well, if we're not killing it, we're at least casting strong illusions that we
You
are.
know what I'm trying to? Like Oscar.
Oscar,
Oscar.
I
with
would love
fire.
to stomp that
Yes.
thing.
That's one of those ones that you hit with a flamethrower, man.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's,
I think so.
because I don't want to have it's not guns. I just need to have the last line of defense be a flamethrower.
You know what
And
that
that's
is?
straight up for things like Oscar.
That's where God tells you to like go into this lab, everybody, everything, even the plant life,
Yes.
even the animals, take it all out. And then future generations are like, why was God so mean? You just weren't
You
around
see
to
something
see
going
Oscar.
like-
You just weren't around to see that little thing.
You didn't know
Um,
that we were fighting spiritual wars against chicken wings.
Yeah. You literally
demonic
need
chicken wings.
to recreate those flamethrowers that they had in Alien. The-
Yeah.
You know, just
I don't like it.
amazing.
I don't like Oscar. Shout out to Oscar. I'm sure he's doing well. All right, man. Take us out of here.
Yeah, thank you again, Bennett. Guys, great episode, and we will see you back soon. Don't forget to obey, submit, and comply. Peace.